Thanks for joining the podcast, everyone. Today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Anthony Palmini twice now, who narrates Quicksilver, a romantic fantasy novel that is taking book talk by storm. Thanks for joining us, Anthony.
Welcome. Happy to be back. Happy to be back.
Yes, you were actually the first person that I ever interviewed.
What?
Yes, and I
Oh my
was very
God.
nervous, and I thought we did a great job because that ended up going viral on Instagram.
That's that's awesome. Oh, you're you're
Yeah.
you're so fun to talk to, and you had so many good questions. So it was great. It was a great time. So I can't wait.
Yes. So now that, I've had a few different interviews, the
Mhm.
expectations are a little bit higher, I think.
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
I know. Okay. So, icebreaker question for Quicksilver.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
could invite one character from Quicksilver to dinner, who would it be
Mm.
and what would you talk about?
I think he's sort of, I don't know if it's a low-key fan favorite because I've been seeing a lot of people kind of say that this person stole some of the scenes, but of course I would have to say Carrion.
Okay.
I think that he would have good stories to tell at dinner. Whether
Mm-hmm.
they're true or not, I think it would just be fun to listen to him tell those stories.
Yeah.
And he feels like he would be the life of the party. So
Carrion is so morally gray. Like when they talk
I
about
know.
that as a character, that's immediately who I think of because you're just like, I don't know if we like him, if we don't like him. Just throughout the
Yeah.
whole thing, I'm just like, I don't know. Like when he beats up her brother,
Yes. And
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 you're
that's
just
in the
like,
very beginning. That's your
yeah,
introduction to him. Yeah.
yeah, and you're like, hmm. And then he's like, well, I didn't like seriously injure him, and you're like, all right, well, we could probably
Yeah.
do better, but we'll take it.
Exactly.
So, narrating Quicksilver and creating all of the voices, this was a
Mm,
little bit different in the fact that you had to narrate all of the male voices.
yeah.
So, that I was very impressed by. I was like, he's really, putting in the work here. So, how did you decide on the voices for the main characters?
So definitely I had to figure out how to make them distinct from each other because
Yeah.
this was kind of the first time I mean I've done other books where I've done most of the male characters' voices, but this one I felt like, you know, I wanted to really try to set them apart. And it's really just like personality wise. And I
Hmm.
always go back to my inspiration, whether it be somebody I know or a character in a TV show or a film, and I kind of look at their style, the way they speak, the way they kind of emphasize certain words,
Yeah.
and then I'll start to incorporate that and then just figure out what tone wise, does this person have a higher tone, a lower tone, and it usually takes about a couple hours. I would say I just
Okay.
kind of after I've done my one or two passes of it, I'll go, okay, I think this is how this person should sound. So
Are you like walking around and you're like house like doing laps with it?
yeah,
How does that
all,
work?
all all the time. I feel like because I've been narrating, books pretty much consecutively after each
Yeah.
other, I just anytime that I hear something or just play around with my voice, I go, "Ooh, that's a good character." And for like the morning,
Oh,
I'll just start to say words that just come to my head, like dialogue that I've heard before,
yeah.
and I'll start to figure out like, okay, this sounds cool. Yeah, okay, they should have a little bit of a lisp or they're a lower tone with a little stutter or whatever. And
Hmm.
then I'll just keep talking until I get to that point and say, okay, I'll keep that in the pocket for
Yeah.
future. So
Very cool. That would be cool to watch, someone do. You're just like, okay, look at them create this voice.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
character's voice was the hardest to create, and how did you nail that down?
I think, and it wasn't really because it was hard for like, I really think it was Kingfisher
Mm.
because there was already such a big thing for Resand that even they were like saying we want something like that, but
Okay.
not that. And
Yeah.
so I was really trying to separate the two. And it took me, I would say, about 3 or 4 tries before I got to that voice, just because I didn't want him to sound too
Hmm.
older, and I didn't want him to sound too relaxed. And so I
Yeah.
had to find like that middle because, he comes at you. aggressive. Like he's an
Yes.
aggressive person, but he's not technically that aggressive when he
Yeah.
wants to be. So finding that balance was really um a challenge in the beginning, just because I kept just, and I think some actors do this where we're just kind of like, oh, that's not good. No, that sounds too much. And you just kind of have to step back
Yeah.
and go, no, 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 this is good. This is good. So I think out of everybody, that was the hardest to do.
Well, I think you did a great job because when I was listening to it, I didn't hear Rhysand at all. And I think
Yeah.
maybe too because Rhysand is more of like a refined
Yes.
character, you know? So
Yes.
versus when you hear a Kingfisher talk, you're like, okay, it's like, you know, a little bit grittier.
Grittier. Yeah. Yeah. He's been through some stuff too, but yeah.
Yes. Yes. Handling it differently.
Very differently. Yeah.
So for your favorite scene,
Mhm.
what's the scene from Quicksilver that you absolutely loved narrating?
That's a good question because I was trying to think of which particular scene, narrating wise, was the best. And I think it was, which just kind of made me laugh. And it kind of ties into another question that you might ask, but I'll just
Yeah.
say it was when Kingfisher bring Carrion when she was expecting her brother.
Oh, yes.
And
Okay.
it made me laugh because as I was reading it, I didn't expect it. And then when I
Hmm.
was actually narrating it, I was kind of laughing because I was like, of course this would happen. And of
Yeah.
course this character is now like there. Um and oh, and then another funny one was the don't pet the animal. He might
Oh,
bite
yeah.
you and then
With Onyx and then Onyx
yeah,
bites. Yeah.
yeah. That was
Yeah.
another funny one.
That was
But yeah,
such a
those two.
great scene because, well, the one where he brings back Carrion because
Yeah.
you're listening to it and you're like, oh, here we go. You know, it's like you think it's gonna go well and you're like, okay, plot twist. And then he's just like, well, what's still a person? Like, here you go. Take
You're
your
right. It's still somebody, just go with it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, were there any scenes or moments that took multiple takes to get just right?
So this is funny. So this scene where the character was supposed to in the book, I believe it says he's supposed to sing a song,
Hmm.
and it was like it was I think it was about 3 pages or 2 pages
Mm.
of this. And at first, and this is just on my part, I thought that I actually had to sing it. And then I was like,
Uh,
what does that sound like? How
yeah.
am I gonna do this? And so I literally spent like about an hour or half an hour around that time trying to figure out how to sing this and the melody and where I would stop and everything. And I go, wait a minute, what am I doing? So I email production, and production's just like, don't sing it, just say it.
Yeah. That's a lot of pressure though, because the
Yeah.
assumption is if you were to sing in a novel, you would probably be very good at it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah, it's gonna be this beautiful, I say nobility,
Yeah.
voice.
And the words were pretty, like, I was like, wow, this is pretty heartfelt. And this is not just a couple of lines. This is like
Yeah.
2 pages. So the pressure was on, and then the pressure was off when they're like, don't sing it.
Okay, well, we'll take that.
Yeah.
So, connecting to the story, what was it
Mm.
about Quicksilver that resonated with you as a narrator or an actor?
I really liked the dialogue. I really
Mhm.
liked the banter that it had. And I think a lot of people say that about the book because it's just the way that it feels almost modern, but not too
Yeah.
modern to take you out of that world. Because
Hmm.
there was a lot of times where I'm like, wow, that's really good. Like, that's very, quick
Yeah,
back and
quick-witted.
forth. And as a narrator, it's great because, you're reading, you're almost setting up these little joke moments. And I guess for me, from a comedy background, anytime I see something with good comedy or good timing, I love that. And so
Yeah.
when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is really, really good.
Hmm.
And then just the balance of everything else. But really, that's when I was reading, I was like, oh, that's really funny. Oh, that's a cool quip. That's really fun back and forth. So that
Yeah,
really got me
think
through
that
it.
makes a lot of sense too, because when you think of other romantic fantasies, it tends to be like the men are quick-witted. The women usually aren't as quick-witted. Obviously, they've been like traumatized usually.
Right.
So they're working through some stuff, but I
Yeah.
thought that, Kingfisher and Saris, they had this, yeah, like you were saying, a really good banter, and it did make it
Yeah.
feel modern in the fact that, like, if you were thrown into the situation, you would probably be like, what are you doing? Like they bring home someone that's not your brother, and you're just like, and then it's like this guy that you used to date, and you're just like, oh, can we not do this, you know?
Right, right,
And
yeah.
so I agree where you're just like, it makes it relatable. I think that's a good word. And I think
Relatable, yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
a lot of people really like it.
Yeah. And relatable enough, like again, so it doesn't take you out of what the world is, the world building
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Hmm. I agree. So if you could step into that world, what role would you play?
That's, thinking about that question, I don't know.
Okay,
I
fair.
don't know because there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, well, I could do that, but I would want to be in the action, but would I want to really be in that world's action where all this craziness is going on?
Yeah.
And would I want to be in her world where there's no water and there's water
No,
rationing?
I don't think so.
So I don't know. I guess I'd be just a bystander, just watching
Mm,
this all unfold because
like
it's
a
just so
Fey
interesting.
bystander, probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that I would probably take care of Onyx, the fox. I think
Oh
that would be my
yeah,
job. Yeah.
that would
Like,
be awesome.
I'd be
Yeah.
like, you guys go have fun now. I'll be here.
I'll just stay with the magical fox. You guys just go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. That's my job title. So, fox watcher. Good.
Makes sense. Makes
That
sense. I
mhm.
agree. That's a good role.
That would be my contribution. So, recording process.
Hmm.
Walk us through the recording process and how you prepared for the book with
Hmm.
so many characters.
Right. So this time it's funny because there are sometimes, like, for example, with the graphic audio stuff, we're just kind of doing one character. And so the
Hmm.
prep for that is a little bit shorter where you're kind of reading the book, but you're paying more attention to like overall your character.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other people helping guide that story. Whereas this is like I really had to read the book once, highlight all the characters. If you look at the iPad that I have, it's like every character is highlighted with a different color. So that
Oh,
way I
okay.
know
Smart.
when I'm reading, I don't have to think like, who's saying this? Is like, oh, green. Okay. Carrion's saying that. Purple. Okay. Kingfisher's saying that. So I know how to jump into those characters.
Yeah.
And then once I do that, then it's multiple days of recording chapters because it's a lot of chapters and a lot of just building my voice stamina because there are times where I can do like multiple chapters in a day, and then if there's a lot of screaming, a lot of different characters,
Yeah.
maybe I can only do a few, and then yeah, and then record, and then send it off.
Are you doing it chronologically, like you're switching between characters, or you just do one character go through and then you do another character go through?
I switch, yeah. So
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
lot of talking to myself, yeah,
Okay. Hey, that makes sense because I was like, this
yeah,
seems like this is very intricate.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely like a lot of pauses to just kind of switch into that character's mode, and then just go right into it.
Is there any kind of like ritual to like help you stay into one character? Or like you like snap yourself in, or how do you do that?
Well, it's funny. So I on my where I record, I have a full timeline of everybody's dialogue, and I
Okay.
pick a certain dialogue that like defines that character's mood and their voice tone. And so I'll have that on the side, so that way, if any point the character's like, if I'm recording and oh, that character's back after like a chapter or two, stop. I'll go to that file, listen to it, and then go right
Mm.
into it because it
Okay.
helps me just get into their mindset and their voice tone.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you really do have to be in the right mindset to portray that vocally. And
Yeah.
voice actors are limited in the fact that you're just working off a voice. So it's not like facial expressions can save you. So
Yeah. Exactly.
that,
No costumes, no nothing. It's just
yeah.
the voice. Yeah.
So it's always very impressive to see you guys do this.
Yeah.
So, what was the most technically challenging part of narrating this book or doing the characters? Was there like a character that was really hard or a scene or anything where you were just like, oof, that was a lot?
I think that's a good question. I think for me it was just I think just stamina wise. I think it
Yeah.
was just because there was such a big range of vocal character, the
Yeah.
vocalization of the characters. There were times where I had to take like time off to just rest my voice. I think there was a
Mm.
scene with I think the character's name is Archer, who's like the little small
Hmm.
Fae, and he
Yeah.
had like a high pitched voice.
Yeah.
And so for me going from dialogue from him to Kingfisher to then narrating to then going back to something else, it was just like after that I was like, whew, okay. I need a little bit of a break.
So do you not
So
talk then for the rest of the day? Even though
I
it's
talk, but
yeah.
I sound like I'm sick. I sound like I got a bad cold. Everybody's like, "Are
Gotta,
you okay?" I'm like, I
yeah.
just did a lot of narrating,
Yeah.
so
I was working hard today, so I'll
yeah.
talk to you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of texting after that.
Yeah.
No talking.
So, was there a line in the book that made you go like, "Wow, this series is going to be really special"?
Again, I think for me, it's so funny because now being in this genre, romance fantasy genre that I've
Mm.
been kind of in for the last year or so,
Which you are
I've
well
come,
suited for.
yeah, which is great, and I've had fun with it. And so, um, coming from a comedy background, I think that every time I see something where it like makes me laugh, like a laugh,
Yeah.
it just there does something to me where I'm just like, oh, okay, there's that little bit of me that's on the side that's like, all right,
Yeah.
comedy, let's get into that. So,
Yes.
so I think it goes back to like what I was saying, where anytime I see that quippy banter, which is throughout this whole book, it just felt different to me. I was just like, oh, okay. Not to say like the other ones didn't have, of course, they all have their own style of comedy, but this one just felt a little bit different for me, where I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I I'm digging this. I'm digging this a lot.
That makes so much sense that people really like this graphic audio because you do have that comedy background. So being able to hit those lines with the right tone, like
Yeah,
the banter
yeah.
is so much about like tone too, and just like
Mm-hmm.
pauses in the sentence. And like
Mm-hmm.
obviously you can't see the face, but that makes a lot of sense that people love it so much because you were well equipped to, present those lines.
Thank you. Yeah, especially Carrion. Like anytime Carrion says something, I was just like, I could really add some more comedy to this to
Yeah.
really sell the scene of that. So
And because of that, I will say when you look at book talk, everyone's like Team Carrion or Team Kingfisher. So,
right.
I think you helped contribute to that debate.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, I really liked his character. I loved all the characters, but yeah, anytime comedies are involved, that's just like that's my bread and butter. So
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so moving to fan questions and personal favorites.
yes.
What's the fan feedback you've been receiving? Any surprising reactions or what you expected?
I was happy that for the majority, it seems like people really enjoyed um, Kingfisher's portrayal.
Yeah.
It was a little. It's so funny because when they first hired me to do it, I think it was just getting really popular on Book
Hmm.
Talk, and they were like, "Oh, it's really like gaining traction." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is Akatar all over again."
Yeah, you're
Like,
like, well, I'm well suited for this, so
right.
let's do
I was,
it.
but the trajectory, it was just so funny because at first I'm like, I really don't know too much about this, but again, I'm gonna do what I did before, not pay attention. But then like they had emailed me that they're like, oh no, it's getting like a lot of attention. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go. And so when it was released, I was like, please be good, please say I did it fine. And then when they were like, no, no, we like the voice, I was like, okay, whew, this is good. This is good.
When I was looking through all the comments, because I like to see what the people are saying, and everyone loved it. There weren't, I
Yeah.
thought with ACOTAR, there was more back and forth on if people like certain characters' voices, or they were like, oh, I didn't
Right.
like expect them to be like that, or there was a one where people thought everyone was going to sound British, or
British. Yeah. Yeah.
and so I was like, please let's not do that. You know what I mean? And then I
Right.
was looking through everything, and they're like, oh, this voice is exactly what I thought. And so I was
Yes.
like, thank you, as they deserve.
Yeah. No, I was so happy. I was like, okay, I'm hoping I'm doing this character justice, and for the most part, it seems like people really liked it. So, um, yeah, it was nice.
So speaking of, the best lines and everything, we were wondering if you would be open to doing one of the lines from Kingfisher.
Yes, and I will make sure to do one that won't get you banned or
Yes,
or
we
flagged.
appreciate that. The last time you narrated a line for us with Resand, it went viral. So, high expectations,
Right.
no stress.
All right, let me see here. Okay. You're right. I don't think you will invite me. When the time comes, I think you'll beg.
10 out of 10. Always appreciated.
Right.
It's so funny because whenever you guys do these lines, I like forget for a brief moment the talent that you all possess. And then you do the lines and I'm like, yeah, okay.
There it is.
That's why we're here today.
Yeah.
Okay, so final reflections on Quicksilver. What do you
Yes.
hope listeners take away from Quicksilver and your performance?
Um, I think I hope that they take away that and I think it just goes to again just praising Callie and for her writing that they go on for they feel the adventure of the story, they feel the
Mm,
difference in characters. Um they feel the emotion because there are moments where there are those emotional moments, and I think that um you know I hope that all of that gets delivered and they just kind of go along for the ride. And of course, it's so funny, the spicy moments, people are like, are those the hardest to do? I'm like, well, those are the fun to do because it's like when you're looking at an action movie, if you're like recording that or filming that, you're like, yeah, okay, this is what the people are here for.
yeah.
Let's go for it. So even those moments, I'm like, I'm thinking as a reader, what would I want to hear? And then
Mhm.
hopefully deliver on all those aspects, whether it be different character voices, the spice, and and being immersed in the story. So that's what I
Mhm.
always hope for any of the narration that I do, that hopefully um they can feel the characters going through whatever they need to be going through in the story.
That's a really good answer. And speaking for the people, I think you did a
Yeah.
good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So
Appreciate
this is the book one, right? So
it. This
the
is book one.
expectation is that there is a second book. I think I saw someone talking about maybe in 2025, a
I
second
think
one.
so. I know she says she was working on it now, and
Okay.
she's almost, I don't know if she's almost done, but I know that there has been talk of her working on it now. So
Okay. So we will expect to see you again to talk
I
about
hope
Kingfisher
so.
and carry it again next year.
I hope so. I hope so. I can't wait to keep delivering the story. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. So I think that is all of the questions we have for you today. Is there anything else that you would like to let your fans know that we could tell them?
Thank you so much. I think that the people who have reached out to me on social media and sent me a message, thank you so much. And I'm happy that you like my portrayal of it, and hope that whatever book I'm hired to narrate, I can continue bringing those books to life. So thank you. Thank you.
And we will make sure to link all of Anthony's other narrations in the YouTube description. So if anyone is interested, always resend. If anyone has not read Akatar, that's always a good go-to.
Go read it. Go read it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you back soon when we
Yes.
get ready
As
for the
always,
next.
thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the great questions. Fun
Yeah.
time as always.